I was hired as executive director for the Canadian Avalanche Association in 2002. When I came to the Avalanche Associations, my predecessors had been putting out some backcountry forecasts. It wasn't something that was really part of the CAA programming. It was public were calling us up saying, "We know that you know what's going on out there in the backcountry. Tell us what's going on, because we really want to know. We want to go out and have fun and do it safely." And so we got some private sponsorships and secured a little $20,000 grant each year from the BC Lottery Fund to help us put out these backcountry products. In the fall of 2002, the little $20,000 that they'd been giving us got cut. And that winter turned out to be the worst winter on record for recreational avalanche fatalities ever in Canada. The timing for the cuts couldn't have been worse.
So the fallout of that winter, after it was over, was a whole bunch of different reviews. That's what governments and organizations do. They do reviews. There was 4 different independent reviews undertaken after that winter. One by the coroner, British Columbia coroner, one by the Strathcona Tweedsmuir School, one by Parks Canada, and one by the government of British Columbia. The government of British Columbia review was entirely focused on creating a, quote, national avalanche center and all the structures and funding groups that would surround the creation of what ultimately would become Avalanche Canada.
We needed strong avalanche safety programs for British Columbia, similar to what were in place already in the national parks in Canada, across the U.S. under the umbrella of the U.S. Forest Service, and in all of the alpine countries and Europe. In British Columbia, we had really nothing.
Our goal, 20 years ago when this all started and we were starting Avalanche Canada, one of our kind of overriding goals was to try and create a cultural awareness of avalanches in Canada.
As a small agency, in the early years, we had to establish ourselves as being public avalanche safety organizations. So we wanted to get ourselves out there as much as possible. I knew that we could use the power of the media to amplify our messaging.
So, that was 20 years ago, and I look at it now, and I look at the press we get, the coverage. It's really changed. It used to always be really negative. Like you just would see the media would be covering stories of avalanche accidents because they're dramatic and sad. They still do that, of course, but there's also positive coverage. There's so much media on the good conditions that are out there and people exchanging information. It's just a whole different world. So I think that the overall impact in terms of creating awareness among Canadians, I like to think it's changed substantially. Well, the avalanche forecasts have changed a lot over the years. I've been writing public avalanche forecasts since the mid-1990s. My first jobs were actually as a contract avalanche forecaster for the Canadian Avalanche Association. And that was before Avalanche Canada. And they were pretty straightforward documents with 4 sections on, snowpack summary, avalanche activity, weather, and terrain.
We've long realized the value of standardization and consistency, and that approach has really guided the development of our forecast products. And here in Canada, we've got these different forecasting agencies, Avalanche Canada, Parks Canada, Canada's country, and we all use the same forecasting software, we share the same website, we talk the same language. And this is just so important in terms of communicating a pretty complex subject. And if we can help users better understand what they're looking at, what they're reading, just making it as easy as possible for them.
Back in my time, one of the goals that we were given was that we wanted to be world leaders in the products and services that we generated. And back then we started the first steps towards getting some training programs organized for backcountry users, to the recreational users, for both sliders and skiers.
addition to our forecast products, I think our training program has had the greatest impact. It's, in the last 5 years, something like 12,000 students annually have taken a course. It's tremendous.
Well, the one thing that I notice, and I'm always a bit cautious when I say this because I'm aware that it could change immediately, but when we started working on this in 2004, the average fatality rate in Canada with avalanches was 15 people per year. And now it's down to 10. And, I don't like to mention that as some sort of pat on the back because, like I say, it could change tomorrow. But, over 21 years, I think that's a pretty robust pattern of descent in avalanche fatalities. And at the same time, backcountry use has just gone through the roof. We don't really have a good way to measure it. But anybody who goes out there recognizes these overcrowded parking lots and, people everywhere in the backcountry. So if you combine the fact that the backcountry use has gone up, many times over, and the average fatalities across the country has come down by 30% over that same time, that tells me that something that we're doing and something Avalanche Canada is doing is really working.
I remember meeting the mother of a young man who had been buried in an avalanche and was saved by his 2 companions. And the 3 of them had very recently taken training. And the 2 survivors pinpointed him right away and then dug him out using the most effective, efficient shoveling methods that we had just started teaching. And it was really emotional talking to the mom. And I was a young mother myself at the time, and I'll never forget it.
We can't measure the accidents that don't happen, but we've seen the backcountry use skyrocket in the last 20 years. And the accident numbers are where they were prior to 2003. So obviously it's great work and it's being effective.
Maybe one of the most important developments of Avalanche Canada was the Mountain Information Network. We find that a really powerful tool at parks. We can put information on there all the time. You see people exchanging information. I mean, you go onto that map at just about any active time in the winter, and there's dozens of posts in real time from real locations with real information. And so as a backcountry user, to me, as a supplement to an avalanche forecast, that's just about the best information you can possibly get.
The establishment of our field teams was a really important development. So they were out there sending really important information to our forecasters from these data sparse areas. But just as importantly, they were making some tremendous connections with backcountry users, these one-on-one interactions with people in the field, at the trailheads, on the slopes, and then, even in outreach events in their community.
When Avalanche Canada was just a young and almost fledgling organization, Parks Canada really supported the growth by providing resources and providing software and really helping Avalanche Canada grow. And as Avalanche Canada grew and became more robust and got more funding, it eventually struck out on its own. And these days, it's in many ways become our go-to, and now the roles are somewhat reversed. And I expect that Parks Canada and Avalanche Canada will always be very close collaborators and work very closely together. I mean, it's a really it's an important relationship for us at Parks Canada. It means a lot. We have a lot of history and a lot of developments we've done together. So I can't see that changing. I think the relationship is as strong as it ever has been.
So what we've been working on here for the last few years is making sure that we have sustainable funding and that we are around for a long time, and because a lot of people depend on us.
And in terms of Avalanche Canada's future, I just hope they keep on becoming sustainable. One thing I've learned is you can take nothing for granted in this world in terms of assuming that this organization is sustainable and will just be funded forever. I think it will always require people making the point that avalanche safety is important in this country, making the case at a political level, and being relevant.
Yeah, ultimately our goal is to inspire people to enjoy the backcountry and do it safely.
We're the envy of the world, and to have had some small part in getting that started 20 years ago is something that I'm very proud of.